Welcome back to our channel, Soap fans. Today is a truly wild day to be a viewer, and we have so much to unpack. Grab your coffee and settle in, because the drama we are about to discuss is absolutely off the charts and changes everything we thought we knew. Let's dive right into the madness. We all knew Curtis Ashford was walking into a nightmare at Pentonville. We all watched him lose his trial, say that heartbreaking goodbye to Portia and baby Desmond, and report to prison. We all knew he was supposed to be sharing a cell with the ruthless, psychopathic Jen Sidwell. But when that camera panned around the dark, dingy corners of that prison cell, and the flickering light hit that scarred, familiar, brooding face, I screamed. I literally screamed at my television. Morgan Corinthos is alive. I repeat, Morgan Corinthos is alive and breathing. And let's just break down this scene, because the cinematography and the sheer tension were absolute perfection. Curtis walks in, his shoulders heavy, completely dreading the fact that he has to bunk with an international criminal like Sidwell. He is already at his lowest point, separated from his family, facing years behind bars. He steps into the cell, bracing for a physical fight, expecting Sidwell to lunge at him from the shadows. Instead, he sees this quiet, intensely still figure in the corner. The lighting was so incredibly dark and moody, hiding the man's identity for just a few agonizing seconds. But then the guy steps forward into the dim light from the barred window. The scars on his face, the sheer, unadulterated trauma in his eyes. It wasn't Sidwell sitting on that cot. It was Morgan Corinthos, looking like he has been through the absolute depths of hell and... Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Can we just talk about the history here for a second? Because if we look back at the timeline, this is monumental. Remember when Morgan supposedly died in that horrific car bomb meant for Julian Jerome back in 2016? Olivia Jerome planted that bomb, and it blew the vehicle to absolute. The explosion was so massive that there was nothing left. Carly and Sonny buried a tiny scrap of his clothing in a closed casket. We mourned him. The whole town mourned him for years. It broke Sonny and Carly's marriage apart. It sent Sonny into a spiral of guilt, and it changed the fabric of the Corinthos family forever. He has popped up as a ghost a few times since then, like when Sonny was trapped in the snow or when Ava was losing her mind and hallucinating. But this is flesh and blood. Real, breathing, scarred flesh and blood. I always had this tiny, nagging feeling in the back of my mind that because there was no actual body recovered from the wreckage, he could still be out there. But to see him sitting in a Pentonville cell, I am unwell. So how is he alive? Because, of course, it all goes back to the DVX. Morgan starts talking to Curtis, his voice all reshby and broken, sounding like a man who hasn't spoken a word of comfort in a decade, and he drops the mother of all truth bombs. Ross Cullum and Jen Sidwell orchestrated the whole thing. They faked his death. They somehow pulled him from the wreckage, or intercepted him before the bomb went off, and they have been holding him captive in the shadows for years. They didn't just hold him hostage, they brainwashed. They took Sonny's golden boy, his tragic, bipolar, vulnerable son, and they erased his identity. They turned him into a shadow assassin, a secret weapon designed to destroy Sonny Corinthos from the inside out. I cannot handle this. The sheer evil of Cullum and Sidwell knows no bounds. We already knew they were monsters for what they did to Anna, Devane, and Jason, but stealing a man's son and weaponizing his mental illness? That is next-level villainy. And let's be real, the show loves a good brainwashing plot. Remember when Helena Cassadine and Caesar Faison did this to Jason, turning him into Jason Quartermain and then into a lethal enforcer? Or what they did to Drew Kane, wiping his memories and giving him Jason's face? Yeah, it's a classic soap opera trope. But putting Morgan in this specific position is so incredibly cruel and brilliant at the same time. Morgan was already so deeply vulnerable before the car bomb. He struggled so hard with his mental health, his bipolar disorder, his desperate, reckless need to prove himself to his father and the mob. Cullum and Sidwell weaponizing that exact vulnerability, twisting his mind until he became a lethal instrument. It is sick. It is twisted. And I am absolutely here for the drama it's going to cause, because the psychological fallout is going to be spectacular. But then the scene takes a terrifying, heart-stopping turn. Morgan is explaining all this dark DVX history to Curtis, his voice trembling with the weight of his programming, and suddenly, he starts convulsing. He drops to the cold concrete floor of the cell, having a massive, violent seizure. It's a horrific side effect of the heavy, experimental mind control drugs the DVX has been pumping into his system for years to keep him compliant. Curtis is completely paralyzed by panic for a split second. He's a former cop, a private investigator, a hero who instinctively jumps into action to save lives. But he is trapped in a locked cell. He has no medical equipment, no radio, no backup. He is just a man watching a ghost die on the floor. This is the impossible choice I was talking about. Curtis is watching Morgan literally seize on the floor, foaming at the mouth, his eyes rolling back. If Curtis bangs on the iron bars and screams for the guards, he gets Morgan the medical help he desperately needs to survive the seizure. But Morgan had just warned him seconds before that the prison is absolutely crawling with WSB and DVX mold. If the corrupt guards find out Morgan is awake, lucid, and talking to Curtis about the assassination plot, they will kill him on the spot. They will silence Morgan forever to protect Sidwell's master. They will snap his neck and call it a prison riot casualty. If Curtis does nothing, Morgan could die from the seizure right there in his arms. I was holding my breath the entire time, my heart pounding out of my chest. You could see the sheer agony on Curtis's face as he weighed the cost of a man's life against the massive, terrifying conspiracy surrounding them. Curtis, being the absolute legend and quick thinker that he is, manages to stabilize Morgan just enough to keep him breathing. He rolls him onto his side, protects his head, and rides out the seizure in agonizing silence, praying a guard doesn't walk by the cell block. But Curtis knows he cannot keep this a secret. He is sitting on a national security threat and the biggest family secret in Port Charles history. He has to get word to the outside world. He has to tell Sonny. So, utilizing his old police and PI instincts, Curtis manages to slip a coded message out of Penton. We don't know exactly how he did it yet, maybe through a bribed guard who isn't on Sidwell's payroll, or maybe he used a secret code during his one allotted phone call to Portia or Alexis. But the message gets out. It bypasses the prison censor. It reaches the outside. It reaches Sonny Corinthos. Okay, back to the point. Let's talk about Sonny Corinthos for a minute, because this is where the irony becomes physically painful. My guy has literally just announced he is walking away from the mob. Maurice Bernard has been hyping up this beautiful new era for Sonny, living a legitimate life, stepping away from the violence and the bloodshed. Sonny just took a seat on the General Hospital Board. He just promised ADA, Justine Turner, who has been deeply traumatized by being held hostage by Sidwell, that he is completely done with the criminal underworld. He promised her a clean slate, a romance built on legality and peace. He even promised her he wouldn't use his connections to have Sidwell assassinated in Pentonville. Sonny was actually genuinely looking forward to a life of peace for the first time in 30 years. And now he gets a coded message from Curtis Ashford, revealing that his dead son is alive. That Morgan is locked in a Pentonville cell, suffering from drug-induced seizures, and being used as a brainwashed assassin by the very enemies Sonny just walked. I mean, what is Sonny supposed to do? He is standing at the ultimate, most devastating crossroads of his entire life. Does he keep his promise to Justine, stay clean, maintain his shiny new, legitimate image, and trust the deeply corrupt legal and prison system to somehow magically extract Morgan safely? Or does he say, screw it, tear up his retirement papers, burn his GH board seat, and launch a full-scale, bloody, mob-style assault on Pentonville to save his boy? We all know the answer. You do not tell Sonny Corinthos his son is alive and suffering and expect him to sit back and sip a latte at Kelly's. He is going to burn Pentonville to the ground. He is going to rain hellfire on the WSB, the DVX, and anyone who stands in his way. And honestly, I am dreading it and celebrating it at the exact same time. I wanted to see Sonny live a peaceful life. I really did. I wanted to see him evolve. But the Corinthos blood runs too hot. The mob life is a gravitational pull that he cannot escape. Just when he thought he was out, they pull him back in. The irony is just too perfect, and the dramatic stakes are astronomical. Justine is going to be heartbroken. The police are going to be on high alert, but Sonny is going to go to war, and I am grabbing my popcorn. But wait, there is another layer to this tragedy that literally broke my heart into a million pieces. When Morgan finally regains consciousness after the brutal seizure, sweating and trembling on the cot, he begs Curtis not to tell his family. He confesses, with tears in his scarred eyes, that he doesn't want to go back to Port Charles. He doesn't want to be rescued. Why? Because the DVX programming is still buried deep inside his head. He knows he is a ticking time bomb. He is terrified of what he might do if the programming is triggered. He genuinely believes he is a lethal danger to Carly and Mike. He would rather rot in a Pentonville cell, suffering through seizures and isolation, than risk bringing death to his mother and brother. The absolute self-sacrifice of that boy. I was sobbing. Carly? Oh my God. We have to talk about Carly. Carly is going to lose her absolute mind when she finds out. She has been mourning this boy for a decade. She is currently dealing with so much chaos, the WSB raiding her house, Jocelyn getting shot and refusing to quit the agency, Valentine's drama, and Sonny's constant hovering. If she finds out Morgan is alive, but that he thinks he's a monster who can't come home, The emotional devastation is going to be Emmy-worthy. Laura Wright is going to act the absolute house. Carly will stop at nothing to get her son back, and if she finds out Sonny is planning a prison break, she might just grab a gun and ride shotgun. And speaking of Michael, Morgan is terrified of hurting his brother, but he has absolutely no idea what Michael is currently going through on the outside. Michael is completely consumed by this ruthless, vicious custody war with Willow Kane over at the Quartermaine Mansion. Michael has forced Willow to live in the gatehouse. He's threatening her with alleged proof that she shot Drew Kane, and he is acting like a cold-blooded corporate raider at deception. Michael is so isolated in his own dark, vindictive spiral right now. He broke up with Jacinda, he is alienating his family, and he is laser-focused on destroying his ex-wife. He is not the sweet, moral compass Brother Morgan remembers. Imagine the parallel here. Morgan, the brother who was always seen as the unstable, dangerous, reckless one, is now literally a brainwashed weapon, yet he is choosing to stay in a hellhole prison to protect his family. He is showing immense restraint and love. Meanwhile, Michael, the good brother, the golden boy who was supposed to be the legitimate businessman, is out here acting like a ruthless mobster, destroying the mother of his children and alienating everyone around him. If Morgan comes back, the dynamic between these two is going to be so incredibly toxic, complex, and fascinating. I know some people are loving Michael's dark era, but personally, I think Morgan's return is exactly what Michael needs to snap him back to reality. Seeing what the mob life and vengeance actually did to his brother might be the wake-up call Michael desperately needs before he destroys his own soul. So what happens next? The suspense is literally killing me. We have Curtis, an innocent man who just wanted to serve his time and get back to his baby boy, now locked in a cell, acting as a sole protector of a ticking time bomb. We have Jen Sidwell, who was supposedly Curtis's actual cellmate, lurking somewhere in that prison, probably pulling the strings, and waiting for the perfect moment to activate Morgan. We have corrupt WSB and DVX agents patrolling the cell blocks, waiting to execute Morgan if he steps out of line or regains. And we have Sonny, pacing in his penthouse, looking at the coded message in his hands, realizing that his mob exit was nothing but a fleeting, impossible dream. I can't believe they actually pulled the trigger on this storyline. I've been waiting years for a real Morgan return, not just a ghostly apparition dispensing advice in the snow. The stakes have literally never been higher for the Corinthos family. Will Curtis survive being the middleman in this terrifying DVX nightmare? Will Sonny risk his freedom, his life, and Justine's love to stage a violent prison break? Will Morgan ever break free of the dark mind control, or is he permanently damaged beyond repair? I am going to be glued to my screen every single day because this is soap opera perfection at its finest. They better not mess this up. Will Sonny risk his freedom to save Morgan, or will the DVX's dark programming claim his son forever? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below and subscribe for more updates.